Welcome back to Candy's Classic Game Shrine, everyone. It's time for another episode of Return to the Third Dimension. And on today's episode, we're going to discuss a recently discovered and dumped unreleased Virtual Boy game. In my original series, Adventures in the Third Dimension, I covered, pretty poorly considering how old it is, but I did cover every officially released Virtual Boy game. When it came to Virtual League Baseball, I easily dubbed it the worst game on the system. When I learned of the game we're about to talk about today, I got nervous. So, the title we're about to talk about today is Virtual League Baseball 2. And as much as I want to light the lighter and set fire to it, A, there's no physical cards, and B, my thoughts might surprise you, considering my thoughts on the first game, which was released. So, throughout the Virtual Boy's life cycle, there were tons of games in various stages of development. Some ideas were just pitched on paper on meetings or at meetings, while others made it as far as having games ready to be manufactured for retail. Since the death of the system, the communities worked tirelessly to catalog the titles that were planned and even try and find the prototypes of any unreleased games, regardless of their status in development. Over the last few years, a bunch of us, including myself, have come across listings for the prototype of Virtual League Baseball 2, and we've all been curious to see if it was real, and we're honestly skeptical of its authenticity since it is possible to fake these things. Unfortunately, none of us really had the funds to check. And yet again, a few months ago on Facebook Marketplace, it popped up, and we all tried to secure it, but had no luck. Now, enter community member Thrownaway. He's a relatively new member to the community, and he got his Virtual Boy in 2022, after being a longtime Sega fan. His favorites being the Dreamcast and the Saturn. Honestly, what attracted him to the Virtual Boy was the quality of the homebrew development scene. It's active and vibrant, much like the Dreamcast scene is. And he always obsessed over what was always considered failed consoles, and the Virtual Boy kind of fits that bill. And like most of us, he found it pretty criminal that the system wasn't given more time to let developers try their hand at better games and use the system to its fullest capabilities. Thrownaway reminds me a lot of myself in that we've had the honor or luck to meet a bunch of interesting and influential people throughout the gaming industry and other industries. People with like oddball connections like game developers and so forth and so on. One day, one of Thrownaway's personal contacts reached out to him after he learned about the Virtual Boy obsession he just started. And after some discussion and magic, let's just say he was able to get in contact with a game developer who had the development ROM from Virtual League Baseball 2. Unfortunately, that was the only prototype ROM that he had, but the bigger issue was the price of the ROM and what that was going to cost. In reality, there was no way that Thrownaway could afford it on his own, and the entire goal for him was to get his hands on the ROM and release it to the public for free and not hoard it away like some not so savory collectors. Feeling that his unicorn was about to slip away yet again, he reached out to some of his closest contacts in the Virtual Boy community and explained the situation. Without hesitation, they all banded together, pulled significant amounts of money together, and, crossed their fingers in hopes that they could preserve some history to the Virtual Boy. Thrownaway wanted to give back to the original contributors, but it's not like there was any physical cards or testing documents or design documents or anything like that for him to share with them. So what he did instead, as a thank you, he created custom Virtual League Baseball 2 commemorative baseballs, kind of like the original game had years ago, and they came out really nice. With the ROM now in their possession, they wanted to go through the code and get a better understanding of what it was and potentially fix things that may need to be fixed. Unfortunately, that type of work was way over a lot of their heads, so Thunderstruck, being the awesome person that he is, lent his services to the team, combed through every bit of code, and pretty much in a few weeks, the ROM was released to the public. They announced it was going to be released on one day, but as a little surprise, they released it 2 days early. As of the making of this video, the team has been able to recoup about 31% of the costs that they've incurred trying to get their hands on the ROM. The fundraiser that they started will continue to run, but only until the 10th of November 2025. If any donations are made afterwards, all funds will go to the Planet Virtual Boy website. To add to the original ROM of Virtual League Baseball 2, Thunderstruck also created 2 patches so that players can apply these to the game at their leisure. One is a custom team max points patch, which maxes out available points for the game's custom team. The other patch is the crew patch, where the game's custom team options and names were changed into those that helped acquire the ROM, or in the words of Thunderstruck and other folks, other Virtual Boy legends. I was somehow included in the roster for that, and I was not aware that I was going to be included, and I'm truly grateful and honored to be considered one of the legends, because I honestly don't feel worthy compared to the other names. I love you guys, so thank you. With the history of the game covered, let's get into the balls and bats of the game. Unlike most sequels to sports games, Virtual League Baseball 2 is more than just an updated roster for the year. The sequel features new and improved music, more options for stadiums versus the one in the original, a 2-player mode, and insanely, significantly improved controls and mechanics, just to scratch the surface. There's a lot more soul in this game compared to Virtual League Baseball 1, and it's obvious right away. When it comes to the controls of the game, it controls just like Virtual League Baseball 1 does. For ease of access to everyone, I'm going to leave links in the description for a guide to the new game and the manual for the original, so you can just check it out at your own pace. Because there is a lot to cover depending on what position you're playing, whether you're playing fielding or pitching or batting, etc. So, one thing I need to immediately comment on is just how much better and responsive the controls are. Like, compared to the first game, you felt like you had no chance, but in this one, you actually feel like you stand a chance against the computer. The semi-auto fielders are a lot better here, and it was the poor controls that mostly ruined the first game for me, but significantly better here. Starting up the game gives you tons of options to play. You can choose between you versus the computer, you versus a friend via the link cable, an all-star game, the pennant race mode, and the options menu. Player 1 versus computer is exactly what you thought it'd be. Choose a team, then you choose the opponent's team, then you play up to 9 innings. Each team has their pros and cons. Player 1 versus Player 2 is you and a friend in 9 innings to see who comes out victorious. This mode isn't immediately available, however. In order to access 2-player mode, each player needs a copy of the game and 1 link cable. Turn on both consoles at the same time. Once you're both at the title screen, press start. Once you guys press start, 2-player mode will appear on the main menu. Once the game is selected, each player can choose from one of the national teams for their game. The All-Star game takes the best players from each continent and puts them on a roster for you, and then you choose from another continental roster for you to play against. Pennant Race is the story mode of the game. You start by picking your team and play 5 games against all of the teams from the continent of your team's origin. Then, after winning those 5 games, you move on to play 3 teams from 2 continents. After beating those 2 teams, you'll be put against the Miracle and Galaxy teams. Only after beating those teams will you beat the game and see the credits roll. The Miracle and Galaxy teams use their own special sprites. The Miracle team uses a female sprite with high heels and a short dress, and the Galaxy team, though, is probably the best, in my opinion, and is made up of monkeys that use a club in place of a bat. However, these 2 final teams are not a joke and will kick your ass. Team Edit allows you to customize the stats of the batters and pitchers of your team. You're given 700 points to use as you see fit in order to give you a fully customizable experience. There's the patch on Planet Virtual Boy that I had mentioned earlier that helps you max out the number of points that you have so that you can create a super team of sorts. This comes in handy if you're trying to actually beat the game and win the pennant race mode. The options menu just really gives you the options to change up gameplay, such as toggling the semi-auto fielders to on and off, although you must be a masochist if you turn it off. But you can do designated hitters. You can also do the background music on and off. Make sure that you're aware that it will not save your designated hitter settings though, each time you power the game off. Regardless of the mode you choose, the gameplay is pretty much the same. You take turns going up to bat and playing the field. Some new things that Virtual League Baseball 2 has that the first one didn't was a lot more artwork in the menus, voice samples, video, or not video, but animated clips of the people playing, and better music, and 3 different stadiums to choose from versus 1. The controls, like I mentioned before, are significantly improved and make this game enjoyable to play. It genuinely feels like the devs put a lot more heart into this game. Perhaps after getting their feet wet with the first one, they felt more familiar developing for the system. And honestly, it only occurred to me that had this game come out, this would have been the first game series on the Virtual Boy to have a sequel also released on the same system. The only other game to my knowledge that had a sequel was the Virtual Boy Wario Land, aka Wario Land series. It kind of gives us a look into what potentially could have been if devs were given more time and resources to develop for the Virtual Boy, because they blew it out of the park with this. And it's a sports title, so I feel like that shouldn't be. But mad props to them for that. I wish there was more I could say about this game, but as far as sports games go, there's really only so much you can say. The only truly interesting part of this game, if you're not a sports person, is the background of it, and that was covered before, and pretty thoroughly, for as much as the folks involved wanted to divulge, which is completely understandable. I can't believe that Thrownaway and the team went through this much work for seemingly little to no return. I can't thank Thrownaway and his team enough for what they did for the community by acquiring and releasing the ROM for free. It was a huge financial and, let's be real, emotional undertaking to get this ROM in their hands. And a lot of collectors, not all, but a lot of them would have wanted to have kept that to themselves and not shared, or at least want, money for each thing sold. But they're doing this the right way and the selfless way, and for that I can't thank them enough. But they themselves also have stressed how thankful they are for each and every one of us who have played the game, that have spoken about the game, that have donated to them to help them recoup costs for the game, and those of us that continue to enjoy the game just like they are. And I'm really excited and hopeful that more and more discoveries like this come out in the future. But with that said, that's my coverage of the newly discovered and newly released Virtual League Baseball 2. Till next time, guys, take care.